Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by John Boy Media. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. It is Senior Bowl week. I am down here. Actually, I'm up. I'm actually up compared to where I was in Florida. I'm up in Alabama. Feeling good. First practices are today when you're listening to this, so make sure to hit me up. I mean, I'm gonna be putting some good stuff out there. Justin, what's going on, my man?
Bobby Skinner, you've had such a busy weekend. I can't describe how busy you have been this weekend in Alabama. Your first weekend in Alabama, Senior Bowl week. You've done so many different things.
I feel like you're downplaying that the Monday is slow. The Monday's slow, and you're trying to make fun of me because I haven't been able to do a ton today.
No,
because of Corona.
I think the most entertaining parts of your trip have come these last couple days.
Well, I've only been here for a couple of days, so yeah.
Correct. No, but I feel like when you look back on this trip, you're going to say the most happened on Sunday and Monday.
Yeah. Well, guess where the money's going to be made? Not Sunday and Monday. Me honking my horn and screaming Alabama at people does not make money. It's funny, but it doesn't make money.
That makes money for Simple Man Radio.
Yes, for the eventual rise. Justin, this episode was brought to us by two special people. Josh Ney, like a horse. I used to be able to do a really good horse noise. I don't think I could do it anymore.
Come on, you have to try.
Justin, I'm right next to another room in the hotel.
Don't care. You walked into it. You dug your grave. Oh, it was good. Yeah,
that one's decent. I could do better. And then the other one's Talzino, all the way in Europe, somewhere in Europe. I forgot where exactly because I wrote his envelope a few days ago. But Talzino, who's been a big time supporter for a long time.
Yeah, Talzino, big soccer fan, football and football fan.
Yes. Who are these people, Justin?
These two wonderful people went to patreon.com/talkinggiants and they subscribe for $2 a month. They support us. They do a lot of fun things. They are arguably our favorite people, right? Maybe not even arguably. Are they our favorite people?
Yeah, I mean, they're downright our favorite people.
All right, so if you want to be one of our favorite people, go to patreon.com/talkinggiants for $2 a month. You get to support us and you get to hang out with us.
It's growing too. Yeah. We almost thought about making a separate Patreon for like day oneers, but like, you know what, that would just be too hard, and then it wouldn't be fair. It's like join our Patreon and don't be the exclusive group. So we're keeping it for you guys. So yeah, we're gonna do a running back review, which shouldn't take long. Out of all the groups, that'll probably take the least amount of time. So we'll do that. But I mean, it's Senior Bowl week, so we can BS a little bit. I mean, I am really excited for this upcoming week. There's a lot of good players here, Justin. I mean, I think a lot has to do with the lack of combine, the lack of visits going to be allowed because of Corona. I mean, this is really it. This is, pro days will be big, but this is kind of it, like where you get this contact with the coaches up close and personal. I mean, the Surratt guys are going to be here. The entire Alabama offensive line, like Landon Dickers. I don't know if Landon's playing because of the injury, but you have Deontay Brown, Alex Leatherwood playing, Mac Jones. Like might be the best Senior Bowl class to ever come out.
Yeah, and I'm glad you talked about the importance of the Senior Bowl, because I was wondering the same thing, and I'm going to be interested to see what the vibe is like tomorrow. Maybe some people that you interview, I know you may want to try a split between players, maybe a media member here or there, but even if you don't interview somebody, like sit down, I would love to hear from a media member who is attending, like how important they think this event and this week is for these players, because like you said, there is no combine, and I can imagine maybe attendance and pro days, especially depending on travel restrictions, right? Travel restrictions, think about New Jersey. Is Dave Gettleman going to be, and Dave Gettleman, Joe Judge, are they going to be going to as many pro days as they would? Because then you come back and you have to quarantine. So I wonder what the whole deal is about, where they're going to be going to the pro days, and just how important this senior bowl week is compared to years past.
Yeah, I mean, pro days happen around the same time too, so you'll be picking and choosing. Even if you're not talking about quarantining and stuff, this is where you really have all the guys in one spot. I mean, there's going to be a ton of players taken in day 1 and day 2 from this place. I think day 2, day 3 is going to be a ton of Senior Bowl guys, over 100 players. I'm excited, Justin. I've been watching film. Like I tried to put together a list of like people I'm looking forward to watch, and it's like it would be like 4 tweets long. I mean, I'm just excited to see all these players. So I mean, I'm pumped. And then the flight here was fun too.
Yeah, talk about that. I would like to hear about that.
Well, if you didn't see on Twitter, I flew in like a propeller plane, which I didn't even know they did anymore. Like I thought there was
only flight school.
Yeah, I thought there was 3 types of planes. I thought there was the big ones, like that, like Southwest and stuff use. I thought there was private jets, and then I thought there was the tiny ones that like people train in. There's a different one. It's called Silver Airways, and it was this like little pink plane. And I literally had to bend over, like walk. I mean, I'm a tall guy, but I was having to bend over walking through there. And it was hot because they didn't have a Segway that went into it. So it was like you walked up in from the ground. I mean, it was an experience.
Not complaining, right?
No, not complaining. I would never listen, I'm a simple man. I will not complaining. The fact that, I can fly from, point A to point B. I am pleased with that technology. But I won't lie. I was sweating a little bit to, start the first 10 minutes, and then you get rolling and they close the door and you're good.
I can also imagine traveling alone through this experience. Like at least like if you had a family member with you, if you had a friend with you, it's like you can laugh about it. I can imagine traveling alone. There's a bit of humility to that. It's like, oh, I'm here and I'm experiencing this.
Yeah. Traveling alone is kind of weird. You feel like you're like on a mission. The worst is after I graduated high school, we had some friends that live in the Cayman Islands. So we went down there, but I was leaving early because I had to like attend like this, an off-season like college program. So I left like 3 days before my friends did, and they got me wasted like 10 minutes before we went, like before I had to fly. And
sure,
being 18 years old, drunk out of your mind, trying to get your way through the Cayman Islands airport, I'm surprised I got to my plane, is basically what I'm saying.
Well, my question is, how did you do while you're on the plane and somewhat out of it? Not getting through the airport, like on the plane when you're changing altitudes. How did that sit in your stomach?
I mean, I was fine. I mean, I was 18, so you could handle anything at that point. I mean, that was back before, like I didn't have like headphones, nothing. It's just you sit on the plane. And then Cayman Airways is pretty ghetto too. Like the 2 drinks were on the way there were punch and rum punch.
Yeah,
and they weren't in their original like cartons. Like they like put them in milk jugs.
It's on brand. If you're going to the islands.
Oh, Cayman Islands is awesome. And like we had friends that lived there, so all we had to do was pay for, and like their parents like were cooking for us every night. So all we had to do was pay for flights and booze. It was a fun time.
I'm getting drunk on a plane.
I can't believe that's a song. That's
a great song.
No, it's not. It's a horrible.
It's a great song.
It's a horrible song.
That's what you were doing on the plane. You were buying drinks for everybody.
I've never had a drink on a plane before.
But you've been drunk on a plane.
Yes, but I've never had drinks on a plane.
So Dirk Bentley, you identify with him.
I haven't even listened to that song in full. It's so disgusting. So is there anything else from my trip that is worth mentioning?
Oh, well, what about your bathroom encounter?
Oh yeah. Right before we got on the plane, like the airplane bathroom, I'm walking in behind this guy, and he just lets out man, someone dropped a bomb in here. And I was like, dude, like I credit you for having the balls to make that joke, because that's ballsy to make. Like that joke could ruin your day, but he did it for a chuckle. And like that's my type of guy. Like I was sitting there just giggling, like taking a piss in the urinal. Like this guy is my type of guy. Just couldn't help himself but risk that joke in the airport. I'm right behind him. The guy has no idea, like this guy has no idea if I'm gonna like snitch on him or just like grab him from like the behind and choke him. It's like someone dropped a bomb in here. So my type of guy.
When you first told me this story, I thought you were describing this in the plane, and somebody was walking out of the bathroom saying, "Phew."
No, that would be way too ballsy.
I would be like, what? I was like, whoa, really? I don't know if I would go into that bathroom.
Meet the Parents has every time I'm on a plane, I just think in my mind, like, be really funny if you said bomb. Really fun. Like, it's not funny, but it'd be funny, you know?
How loud have you said it before? Like what?
On the way to the Cayman Islands, me and my friend played the bomb game, and the loudest was like, bomb, bomb. Like, no one could hear us, basically. Right. You know?
Sure.
It wasn't like, you know, no one could hear us.
No.
I've been beating the crap out of the rental car, which has been fun.
Yes. What brand? What do we got?
We got a Nissan I think it's a Mardona. Is that what it's called?
I think it's Murano.
Nissan Murano. I don't know why I call it a Mardona.
There you go.
Nissan Murano. I mean, compared to my truck, I mean, I'm beating the piss out of that thing. I mean, it's fun. It's fun.
Hey, as long as is there a rule? As long as you return it with more than a quarter tank, is that the rule?
No, you have to fill the tank up. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, boo.
Yeah, you have to fill the tank up.
Boo.
And I'm fine admitting that because it's under my insurance. You know, if it was like John Boy Media has to cover it, if I crashed it, it's fine. But it's under my insurance.
You ever see Ferris Bueller? Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Yeah.
It's like you and the Ferrari with those two guys in the Ferrari. You're just taking it out for a joyride. Your Nissan
I'm
SUV.
whipping it around Alabama.
Yeah. Is it SVU? That's a Law and Order.
Yep. Anything else Senior Bowl, my time in Alabama related before we?
Are you prepared? Like, do you have like a concrete plan of like what you're attacking? Practice and what you're looking, where things are going to be, or are you just going in and you're just like, okay, I'm here? Your advantage is that you're taller than everybody else, so then you could see what's going on.
Well, you have to be in the stands. I have an idea of what I want to do. Like, I've mapped it out, but I don't know if it's going to work. Like, my plan is find other people who are there by themselves, try and be friendly with them. Watch, I'd like to watch O-line, D-line one-on-ones. And then watching the front seven. And like team periods.
Do you have a pass?
I get those today when you're listening.
Oh, I'm very excited. Can you take a picture? I want to see it.
I will.
Please.
And I'll like burn it or something.
Yeah, sure. You did find fireworks also. Here's what I'm gonna. That's the clip. One of my favorite clips of Dave Gettleman from the Senior Bowl last year is where he goes, "Oh, great catch," and then it's the soft clap. And then he also had a soundbite that said, "For a million reasons, Daniel was the right guy."
Yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely try and get a picture of Dave Gettleman and Joe Judge and tweet that out.
Yes.
That'll probably be the most interactive thing I get all week. Like, here's this linebacker making this play. It's like, picture of Dave Gettleman. That'll get it. But I'm not gonna be like what most media people do and try to make some joke about like being old school. I'm just gonna be like, here's Dave Gettleman, and I'll tag the Dave Gettleman account.
Yeah, that's him, Dave Gettleman.
There's him, and then Joe Judge. I'll probably make a joke about.
Do you think walking up to Dave Gettleman and impersonating his voice would be a good idea?
Well, one, I can't do it.
Oh,
no,
tough.
But I think I could. I know I would get along with Dave Gettleman if I had 30 minutes with him.
What would be the Dave Gettleman line I would go up and I would say to him if I ever met him in person? Something about no holds bad. Probably a classic. I'm gonna have to think about that. I'm gonna have to reflect on it.
Next year you'll be here.
Oh yeah.
Maybe Gettleman won't. We'll see.
Tough.
Gettleman, I would get along with Gettleman because I wouldn't be looking to try and make fun of him. You know,
it's true.
Where everyone else is like looking like he's always thinking of like people trying to mess with him. I would just be like, dude, you can let it fly with me, man. I'm gonna eat it all up.
Dave Gettleman's an entertainer. I'm sorry.
He is an entertainer.
He's an entertainer.
About that, people like I can't stand get mad at Gettleman for the moves he's made. Don't get mad at him for his personality. Like anyone who gets mad at him for his personality is lame to me.
I agree. He saves press conferences.
If you don't like it, like the decisions he's made, go after him. But his personality is fun. Like I'm not gonna like the computer. Like that's funny. So
yeah.
We should probably talk about the Giants a little bit before people tune out. Like I know this is a little bit of a different week, but let's get into it. Some news before we do the running back review. Our friend Research Rick at CLT_NY, he pointed out that Stephen Brown, who's an offensive assistant who was with the Dallas Cowboys for 4 years and then came over with Jason Garrett, is no longer on the website. He's not on the website as well as Gooch, and every other assistant that is there is still on the website. So I'm assuming he quit, was fired, something, but he's gone. So that means 2 out of the 3 Dallas guys are gone, Justin. Mark Colombo, Stephen Brown, and Jason Garrett's the only one left. Maybe Jerome Henderson you could count as a Dallas guy, but you don't really think about him as far as Dallas guys.
No, he came from Atlanta.
But he was in Dallas with Jason Garrett too, though.
One step closer. We're one step closer, Bobby Skinner.
I mean, I don't have any Stephen Brown takes, but that's interesting. Like that is interesting that like the only assistant that's gone is the Dallas guy and Stephen Brown. Like that's interesting to me.
Yeah, and really, this is the hope that I have for Jason Garrett. I said this on one podcast episode. I wanted to make a video of it. I never did. The hope that you have for the offense, I'm not necessarily going to say Jason Garrett. The hope that you have for the offense is that Joe Judge is going to do that self-evaluation and self-scouting that he said that he was going to do the moment he stepped into the building, hence why he didn't say Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley's names for months, and then the self-scouting and the self-evaluation that he mentioned in his postseason presser. It's like, I now need to take the time, the time of reflection. That's also why I like Judge. He's a good communicator, and he recognizes the importance of reflection and self-reflection. Maybe there's something that I did that didn't work, or maybe there was something that one of my coaches did that didn't work, and he recognizes the importance of that. So that's the hope. The hope is that, hey, we took that self-reflection period with Andrew Thomas. Joe Judge went in there, reportedly did what he wanted to do with Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas looked a lot better. Self-reflection period of, hey, Freddie Kitchens coming in here, calls a little bit better plays, but within the same game plan. That kind of worked. Hey, let's maybe change that. And then we see the good changes that Jason Garrett kind of made the final 2 weeks of the season. So,
there is a path to success for the offense in 2021.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to make a video about that. The Giants' offensive path to success.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I like that. Thank you for the idea, Justin Pennick. That's Jason Garrett's not leaving. But it is interesting.
Why have the Texans not? And I'm actually being serious about this.
They're hiring Eric Bieniemy. They're waiting for the playoffs to be over.
Why have they not interviewed him though?
Why would they?
He's an experienced head coach that could give some general direction of where to go as a football team. Why not interview him?
They're at the mercy of Deshaun Watson at this point. Running back review. We don't need to take a break before we get into it, I guess. No, sorry if you don't like that we're BSing, but it's like there's nothing going on. We'll do the running back review at the end, now. But it's Senior Bowl week, so it's the first time a Talking Giants member has been part of the media. So how about that?
Yeah, this is also us, by the way. Like, Talking Giants isn't just like Talking Giants. It's Bobby and Justin, and I frankly enjoy these conversations where we can just kind of relax and shoot the breeze more than talking about Giants football.
Me too, and diehards do too. But you got to think, 75% of our audience probably isn't diehards. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like, it's crazy how people come to us to hear our thoughts on the Giants. Like, who would do that?
And that's just the way it is. But hey, I do get 5 requests for I get to put email a top 5 like first come first serve for interviews, which I think are one-on-one phone calls. I don't know. I'll find out tomorrow or when you're listening. So day one, I'm gonna email about Chaz Surratt. We'll probably do Noah Gray because that would be a great one to talk about Daniel Jones, which would probably annoy him. So send me some, tweet me some in the morning. If you got to do it before 10 a.m. because at 10 a.m. I'm sending my email. So do it. All right, let's do this running back review, Justin. I don't have any, these other position reviews I've done like this big picture thing. Here's what I'll say. Is that every running back that got more than carries than Saquon Barkley is a free agent. Elijah Penny's a free agent. Wayne Gallman's a free agent. Alfred Morris is a free agent. Dion Lewis is a free agent. Saquon Barkley is the only running back under contract for this team, and we'll talk about Saquon. But what the 2020 Giants running back group looks like probably won't look like the 2021 at all, which we'll talk about with each one of these guys' free agencies. Justin, let's start it with Saquon because this isn't a review. He's 5'11", 233 pounds. He's 24 in 2 weeks. Obviously, was the second overall pick in 2018. 1 year left on his contract, and then the fifth-year option, which we'll assume gets picked up. Justin, if he stayed healthy, we'd be having we would be doing a Saquon got extended episode sometime this offseason. But because he missed basically the entire year, do you think there's any chance that a deal is done this offseason? Because I don't think it happens.
No. I don't think that's smart. Now, man, because you can look at it from this way, a massive gamble. And this is a massive gamble, and I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think this should happen. If he agrees to an extension with not a lot of guaranteed money, and he takes the money because he feels that he just wants it now because he doesn't trust that he can stay healthy. But why would a player not bet on themselves? And why would, the second pick of the draft not bet on himself and try to invest in himself? I don't know why he would do that. So I don't think that's a scenario they explore.
I could see him, though, also seeing, running back contracts around the league and being like, hey, will you take maybe the opposite, maybe some more guaranteed money, but not as high as like a McCaffrey deal is or something. Or a year cut, something like that, because, we've seen it with running back contracts around the league, a lot of them aren't great. There's no denying that at this point. That being said, which will lead into the Wayne Gallman conversation, missing Saquon hurt the Giants in 2020. Like, I don't like to go we've had this conversation like, well, what game did we lose? Well, you can argue maybe Chicago. There's close games where we'll talk about with Saquon's big playability. You like to talk about explosive plays. Saquon got those. The Pittsburgh game, his 15 carries for 6 yards wasn't because the O-line was blocking bad. It was because Jason Garrett was not blocking the backside. There was just no so he had no chance in that game. It wasn't just like, hey, can you make something out of this not great blocking? It was like, hey, we're just not even blocking this backside end and Bud Dupree. And then Chicago had 4 carries, 28 yards, and then obviously tears the ACL, and he's done for the year. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think a contract gets done.
But the Giants this year, in runs of 10-plus yards, at the rate in which they produce runs of 10-plus yards, they produced it 24th best in the National Football League. So that's bottom quarter. It's top of the bottom quarter in the National Football League. 2018, they were first. Pretty sure they were first. Like, Saquon just went off in 2018. But in 2019, even when Saquon Barkley missed a decent amount of time, they were 24th too. Turns out they were 24th. I thought they were higher. I thought they were like 7th. But anyway, Saquon Barkley does produce explosive plays at a pretty high rate. He was very good at it in 2018. He was even good at it in 2019. Not as high, which, it goes to the whole debate of, how sustainable is explosive plays in the run game, especially with the running back. Now, I would have loved to see how Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley would have worked together. Bobby, here's actually a question. Would we
look at the receiving numbers for these running backs?
But let me ask this question first. Just stick to the running game for a second. Do we think Daniel Jones has as good of a rushing season? Like, we were forced to use him out of the read option just because there was nothing else working in the run game, and that was the only thing that was working was Daniel Jones running the ball. Do we think we see that as often, or do we think we even see it at all if Barkley is healthy?
I think we see it maybe a little more.
I would hope so too.
Teams are biting. Yeah, maybe not more, but I think it would have been around the same amount. The fact that they didn't do it in the first 2 weeks. I mean, I remember us talking about that. Like, you have this guy with these legs, you have teams crashing the backside in these run game and ruining your run game, and you're the only team in the NFL besides, I think it was like maybe the Jets, that hasn't done this yet. Like, you're the only team. It was mind blowing. And then obviously we see a lot of big runs for Daniel Jones this year. So Saquon just makes that better. I don't know if they would have done it a more amount of times, but it would have made it better. Although, it probably couldn't have got much better than it was. I mean, Daniel Jones was leading, the QBs and yards per carry for a good chunk of the season.
Yeah. The only thing about Saquon that I don't know, and the only thing that I'm really worried about, and we're going to talk about this with Wayne Gallman, just how efficient he was with the ball in his hands. Every rose has its thorn. The rose of Saquon Barkley is that he produces the explosive plays. He'll make nothing out of really something. But the worry with Barkley is that he does spend a lot of time behind the line of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
He spent in 2019 almost 3 seconds on average behind the line of scrimmage. And in an offensive line and in an offensive scheme overall, at least to start the year, was terrible. Like before Saquon Barkley was injured, 30% of the Giants' rushing attempts were being tackled at or behind the line of scrimmage. That's insane. That's insane. And you're not running the ball every play. So that just destroys your offense, and it destroys that drive. So my worry is, especially seeing how successful Wayne Gallman was this year, given his opportunities, can Saquon Barkley be an efficient of enough running back to have a sustainable running game where, yes, we will get those big explosive plays, but can he be consistent enough so we can have a consistent running game?
That's what he needs to improve on. Now, I want to move on because, Saquon really didn't play this year.
Yeah.
Was there a lower post game for Saquon Barkley than week 1 Pittsburgh? I mean, you had the 15 carries for 6 yards, and then TK rips him for his blocking, which his blocking is not great, but like, I'm not gonna pretend he's like a putrid blocker. He's not a great blocker.
Thought the Jets might have been lower last year. Well, I mean, they were missing most of the offensive line too against the Jets.
And that was against Jamal Adams, the best pass rushing linebacker safety in the NFL.
Yeah. Nate Solder was out. Who were they starting at left tackle? You remember?
No, Nate Solder was playing. Remmers was out. Gates was at right tackle. And Nate Solder left, and they had Eric Smith at left tackle.
Eric Smith, yeah.
That was a rough game. That's the game that Nick Gates was the backup center for. That was the first time Nick Gates actually snapped the ball was that week.
That was the game that I really believed in Daniel Jones, by the way, because that offense somehow put up 27 points. But anyway, running backs.
More points than that. They had 4 touchdowns that game. Okay, let's talk about Wayne Gallman. Let's talk about the workhorse for the 2020 season. 6 foot, 210 pounds, 26 years old, was a 4th-round pick in 2017 out of Clemson. He's a free agent, which we can talk about. In this season, he had 147 carries, 682 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4.6 yards per carry, which is good. 21 catches for 114 yards. So, I mean, he really was no impact in the receiving game. It was usually, last-second checkdowns that got no yards. He had a good year, and I was not a Wayne Gallman fan going into the year. I was like, if you're going to put Dion Lewis as the number 2, which, I mean, the game Saquon got hurt, Wayne Goldman wasn't active for. So, I was big on the train of bring in someone new, try something new, see if you could get someone that's, can bring you something in the kick and the return game or more of a receiving back than Goldman. But this is where Goldman needs that volume. And that's why I don't think Goldman should come back next year, which I'll save that. But Goldman needs the volume because he has one cut and go. He's going to find the hole and hit it as hard as possible, sometimes stopping himself from big plays. He's kind of the anti-Saquon, where there's plays where I watch this, man, if Goldman trusts this pulling guard or this blocker, this play is 10, 20 yards. And the fact that he doesn't break those one-on-one tackles, at the second, third level. He'll run through guys, he did his job. But I think where you miss Saquon isn't if we had Saquon this game, it's where the 7-8 times where Goldman gets past the linebacker and he's one-on-one with the safety and the safety makes a tackle. And you're if he just makes that tackle, he's gone. And that's the difference between Saquon and a guy like Goldman. So he did his job. I'm happy with Goldman's 2020 season. You could argue he was the MVP for this team. Me and you went different ways with our 2020 offensive MVP. But he did his job. So I'm not mad at Goldman for being who he was and being what he was to the best of his ability.
What I loved about Wayne Gallman is that his efficiency as a running back this year and his production as a running back this year was not reliant on volume. You see a lot of times in the NFL, I think Zeke has been overblown as a running back in the National Football League because he is dependent on volume. He is not an efficient running back. And you can make it, I don't want to make the argument for that in Saquon Barkley in 2019, but if you're a believer in DVOA, Football Outsiders DVOA, defense value over average, it basically measures efficiency. There's a metric for quarterbacks, there's a metric for running backs, there's a metric for wide receivers. Saquon Barkley was 19th in the National Football League in DVOA. He had a lot more carries. I think he had almost 100 more carries than Wayne Gallman did this year. But Wayne Gallman finished 11th in DVOA amongst all running backs this year. He was 12th, I believe, he was 12th in defensive yards above average, which basically means, think of WAR, the wins above replacement stat in baseball. How much is a running back producing above what they're kind of expected from their replacement level? Wayne Gallman was 12th in the National Football League this year, and he did not receive a lot of carries compared to the top running backs in the National Football League. In terms of his next-gen stats with the player tracking data, the NFL Next Gen has their efficiency metric. Wayne Gallman, according to NFL Next Gen, was the most efficient running back in the National Football League this year. In terms of time behind the line of scrimmage, he was third least in the National Football League. He spent the third least amount of time behind the line of scrimmage on average, 2.51 seconds. Reminder, Saquon Barkley spent on an average of 2.89 seconds behind the line of scrimmage this year. He was really, really efficient. He took what was in front of him. And Bobby, I really hate to say it, I am the kind of guy where I want my passing game to be the most explosive part of my offense. And if we're going to run the ball, I do not want to take negative losses in the run game. Give me 4 yards per pop, and let's have the running game move forward consistently versus the once out of every maybe 10 attempts that may go for somewhat of a big gain, and then the rest of the 9 attempts are negative to no gains.
Yeah, I mean it's not as black and white as that, where it's like Saquon gets every tackle's a tackle to the line of scrimmage, and then there's one big play. But with a guy like Saquon and any running back who has that elusiveness, you can teach him. Like, you can teach him not vision, just like, hey, knowing when to pick and choose your battles, and being like, hey, sometimes when you do hit the hole, it's going to open up. It's going to open up for you. Stuff is going to happen. Guys are going to miss gap responsibilities. So,
also another important thing to note about Wayne Gallman's season, you can thank Jason Garrett for this too. Wayne Gallman faced an 8+ man box on his rushing attempts, 40% of his carries. 40. That was second most in the National Football League behind Peyton Barber in Washington, which for most of the year, they never had, even with Alex Smith, they never had much of a passing game downfield. Damian Harris was third with New England, and of course, they didn't have much of a passing game either this year.
Yeah, so, and that's why the idea that, oh well, Saquon will open things up for the offense as far as like having less guys in the box and stuff. That's not true. Like, no. It's not true. Like, we faced stack boxes all year. So now here's the bigger conversation about Wayne Gallman, because we're all happy with his season. Do you bring him back in free agency? My opinion is, if you can do it for like dirt cheap, sure, why not? But actually, like, making it a priority and spending $2-3 million, to me, absolutely not. We've seen he doesn't work well as the backup. He needs those volume yards. In 2018 and 2019, he had 80 carries for 286 yards, 3.5 yards per carry. I mean, he was bad, and he fumbled a couple of times too in there. He is a guy who needs the volume. He just doesn't work as a backup. And I've seen, like, in the argument against me, because I was never pro Goldman these past couple of years. It's like, well, if you give him the opportunity, it's like, well, when you have Saquon on the team, he's not going to get the opportunity, and he shouldn't get the opportunity. So you can't have Saquon on your team and then spend money having a backup plan at running back. You can't. You have to. It's all or nothing. When you draft a guy like Saquon in the first round, it's all or nothing. You can't then again invest on your backup running back. Your backup running back needs to be making the bare minimum, $1 million a year or whatever Goldman gets. So, and also, I don't think Goldman's like, who's going to be breaking the bank for Wayne Gallman too. Like, he had an all right year, but I don't think people were noticing Wayne Gallman around the league.
No, and the thing is, right? The Giants finally saw, by having a somewhat capable running back in, that if you get a running back that is capable, that running back, even though Wayne Goldman did nothing to impress us in his first couple years, even though he did nothing to impress us, he still performed at a good rate. He still had a pretty good production, which goes to the whole argument that running backs are, they're a replaceable position. So nobody is going to break the bank because that's just the way the NFL is going. Nobody's going to break the bank for Wayne Goldman. But even if nobody's going to break the bank for Wayne Goldman, I still don't think it's a smart decision for the Giants to bring him back because, like you said, I 100% agree with you, Bobby. He's not good in that backup role. He's just not.
Yeah. I mean, if you get him on like a $1 million deal, like fine. But no one's going to give him like $3 to $4 million. I just don't see it. I mean, let's look at it. Let's look at it from the outside looking in. Let's pretend we're, you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. You see Wayne Goldman, and you see 682 yards, and you see really not a receiving threat at all. Like, what GM is going to spend $3 to $4 million on Goldman? Like, Goldman could be one of those guys that doesn't even like have a team week one.
I don't know. But Bob, I don't know about that because
he'll have a team. But what if he was like holding out for that contract? If he's like, no, I need to make 3.5 mil. Like I don't know who's going to come pay Goldman for that.
I really do think NFL teams do value what you can do despite the circumstances, and seeing that, Bobby, he averaged 4.6 yards per carry. When 4 out of every 10 of his rushing attempts, 8+ guys were in the box. And I think teams do look at rushing yards over expected data. That was, a tip. When I find that there are new trends and there are not trends, but there are new metrics coming out, I find I'm thinking that, this is something that was private that maybe certain NFL teams were looking at. I'm not even talking about the Giants here. I'm just talking about NFL teams in general. This is maybe something that was private that NFL teams were looking at in the past, and now it's just becoming public because that's just how data works in the NFL. And even his rushing yards over expected are a positive, and that was good. Like based off what he expected to do from the player tracking data, how many guys were in the box, what Giants formation was, et cetera, et cetera. So I think teams look at that and they can say, we can do something with Wayne Goldman if we give him the carries.
Goldman Night Nation, say goodbye. Say goodbye.
Yeah.
Anything else you got on Goldman?
No. Do we wish Daniel Jones utilized his running backs a little bit more in the past game?
Kinda, but then think about the complaint about Eli in the end of the year. It's like he's getting the ball out quick to the running backs. And none of those, and Goldman's just not elusive like that, where it's like he catches the ball and he's going to make something happen. It's something we've talked about. Jones likes to check down towards the middle of the field. Make his tight end the check down valve, not his running backs. And on third down, they usually are keeping the running back in. Like which we'll talk about with Dion Lewis. So Alfred Morris. So let's talk about Alfred Morris. Alfred Morris is 5'10", 222 pounds, 32 years old. I mean, we were like, what is this? Like, we're signing Alfred Morris to the practice squad? We're like, wouldn't you want a younger guy in the practice squad? Well, apparently they wanted to play this guy, and they did. He had 55 carries for 238 yards, a touchdown, 4.3 yards per carry, 3 catches for 19 yards and 1 touchdown. Justin, people complained when they'd be like, why did they take Goldman out? Morris was a productive backup. 4.3 yards per carry. Like, he had some really good plays. Like, I get he wasn't explosive, he wasn't fast or anything, but the rotation to me was perfect. This isn't me just being an Alfredite. Like 4.3 yards per carry for your backup is solid. Like, I was fine with that. In fact, I think there's a better chance Alfred Morris is on the team next year than Wayne Goldman. Like, why wouldn't the Giants bring this guy back in the training camp? He's going to play for the minimum. Why not bring him back in the training camp? You can't just rely on a late round or undrafted rookie to be the backup. I don't think Lewis is going to be back. I think Alfred Morris, out of all these guys we're talking about as free agents, has the best chance to be back.
Yeah, and especially when we're talking about Wayne Goldman's weakness is not being efficient and not being successful when he doesn't get a lot of carries. That was not Alfred Morris's issue. He came in whenever you kind of needed him, whenever you kind of needed a little bit of a gain. Even if you need a little bit of a spark, Alfred Morris kind of provided that. And I said all year, Alfred Morris is so slow that he actually allowed rushing lanes to open up. It was so funny to see how effective he was kind of outside the tackles from time to time, because he is so slow. He's not going to hit the hole right away. So he's going to allow his linemen to get out in space and do some cool things. So
there were a lot of games where he had more yards than Goldman, like where he was the leading rusher as a running back. Had like some bigger plays like out on the edges and stuff. So, he had 1 carry in 2019 for Arizona. He had 111 in 2018 for the 49ers, averaging 3.9 yards per carry. So, I was very surprised they brought him in as for the practice squad. We didn't think much of it. It's like, oh, it's the practice squad. We had Devontae Freeman at the time. So, yeah, but as far as like the complaining about the rotation, I was all in on that. Like, it worked. Like that rotation worked,
He's 32.
I know, he's 32 years old. This dude lasts, man. FAU's finest. He caught a touchdown from Colt McCoy, and Colt McCoy gave him a touchdown back in Washington against the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football in like 2014, and I remember clipping that after the Seahawks game. That was a fun moment. I mean, that was the height of Alfredite Nation. Next, Dion Lewis. He was brought in as a free agent on a 1-year deal, 5'8", 195 pounds. He's 30 years old now. He's a free agent too. Justin, I like this signing. Like I was a big fan of the Dion Lewis signing. I was like, he'll be the number 2 backup. He's shiftier. He can make plays. He's in the receiving game. He's actually a pretty decent blocker for his size. I like this signing, and I leave with a kind of like a not feeling great about him. I mean, he came in relief for Saquon in that Chicago game because Galman wasn't active. He had 10 carries for 20 yards. So the game where he got his volume, he didn't do anything. After that, he had 29 carries or he had 19 carries for 127 yards, which is sorry, I'm screwing this up. For the season, he had 29 carries, 115 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 yards per carry. But you think about the game where he actually got carries was Chicago, 10 carries for 20 yards. So in the other games, he had 19 carries for 95 yards, 5 yards per carry. But a lot of those came on like 3rd and 20 draws.
Right.
Like so. Like it's not as like, oh wow, look at he had 5. Like I'm not gonna spin this into like, wow, look, he had 5 yards per carry when besides one game, it's more of like that shit that kind of proves my point. And he was known as a receiver. Only had 19 catches for 127 yards and a touchdown. Although he did have some big catches. I was just disappointed. Like he didn't add what I thought he would add. I mean, but he did have some big, like memorable plays, like the Tampa Bay touchdown. That was a great play.
Awesome.
Some 3rd downs versus Washington.
Top 5. I think that Tampa
Eagles
Bay
3rd down throw.
I think that Tampa Bay touchdown that he had is a top 5 play on the season. I mean, just a combo of awesome ball placement, great throw by Jones, and yes, that's why we signed you, Dion Lewis.
But see, those are the Dion Lewis plays I remember are like perfectly executed and thrown balls by Jones. Like you have that Tampa one, the one against Philly where I did the breakdown of the audible.
It's a tough catch.
It was definitely a tough catch, but it was like, it's like what we talk about Golden Tate. It's like, yeah, it's awesome you make these crazy catches, but what sucks is that we have to make the perfect throw to you every time.
I have a take on that. Keep going.
Washington, I remember he had a big 3rd down where they blitzed and they threw it over his head. They threw it over the head to him. So I don't see him coming back. I mean, I just don't see what the point would be.
Yeah, I agree, especially if we're not going to prioritize getting the ball to our running backs in the receiving game. I think that should have been a priority. I don't know how many times we saw Dion Lewis line up as a wide receiver, and then the Giants' definition of pre-snap motion would be motioning in Dion Lewis from a wide receiver to a running back. It's like, yeah, bro, we know you're going to do that. Like that shouldn't even Seth Walder shouldn't even count that as pre-snap motion. Like having Dion Lewis line up as a wide receiver, then motioning in. Of course, the linebacker is going to follow you, and then we're going to think that you're in man coverage, even though you're not. I don't know why they didn't do more of what they did in Washington.
Started doing. They just just have the linebacker follow him no matter what.
Exactly.
We know they're going to motion him in, and
there was no deception in that. So my whole thing is, we watched what they were doing with Dion Lewis in Tennessee, and they would have Derrick Henry in the backfield, and then Dion Lewis out was like a wide receiver, and they would be throwing him screens. Giants really didn't even throw.
That's why
wide
I liked
receiver
him,
screens.
I liked the way he was in Tennessee.
Yeah, so I do think it's part. Yeah, we're a little disappointed in Dion Lewis. We're especially disappointed, I think, in the way that he pass blocked as well. I'm not sure if you touched on that yet, but
I was fine with that. I mean, do you remember any bad block? I mean, there was some, but it's like he also faced like third down blitzes and stuff.
Was there some like max protection, or was that only Wayne Goldman that allowed like? Okay, all right. So, I'm just disappointed in the way that the Giants didn't, especially after Saquon Barkley goes down, didn't prioritize to use him specifically in the passing game when the passing game was just struggling, and there was no yards after the catch. Even if you're, utilize the intermediate part of the field with Dion Lewis and set things up so he is in space naturally. So, I'm very disappointed in that. Where the Giants shouldn't be prioritizing their backup running back. I really think unless they want to change the way that they use their running backs in the receiving game, I don't know if they should be prioritizing the running backs to do anything well specifically besides coming in and just spelling Saquon like an Alfred Morris. Because if they're not going to be using these guys in unique ways in the receiving game, then what's the point of bringing somebody in that has a unique skill set?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Anything else on Dion Lewis? I told you we go through the running back somewhat quickly.
Yeah. No, just disappointed in how it worked out, because we were talking before the season like he wasn't.
I love the Lewis signing.
Yeah, he wasn't gonna break records, but he could have had an impact, and especially in an offense that needed playmakers. It's just a shame that he wasn't used in any kind of.
I thought he was the perfect backup for Saquon. Yeah. Now maybe he would have been, but I thought he was the perfect backup for Saquon. He was the number 2 though. Like, I mean, go back to Chicago game. Wayne Garman was not active, and he wasn't active to end 2019. They had Buck Allen over him. Like, it's, like, let's give. I know we kind of aren't the biggest Wayne Gallman fanboys, at least I'm not, but kudos to Gallman for kind of shutting people like me up, you know? So now we did forget one, Elijah Penny. We forgot him. I forgot to put him in my notes, but I don't have to write down any stats for Elijah Penny. It's all in the noggin. Another guy I was not a big fan of in the second half of the season when they started running the ball and using power. He was a good blocker. Like, I went from like the Giants to go out and get a real fullback to like, I'm fine if they roll with Penny again this season. Now, I also would like to see Ben Mason possibly, suit up for the Giants. Like, if they pick Ben Mason in the 7th round or undrafted free agent, I would love to see that, because I think he would give us an advantage. But if they roll into 2021 with Elijah Penny, I'm not going to be like, oh, they need to go get a different fullback.
Yeah, I agree. Fullbacks matter. They do.
They really do. And I know people like to make jokes about fullbacks. Like, no, you shouldn't be doing Mike Allstott fullback dives. Like, I hate the fullback dive. But having a good fullback is an advantage. It is. Like, it helps your running game. Like, people like laugh at that, but like, why wouldn't you try and have a good one on your roster? Why not make that investment like the 49ers do, like the Chiefs do?
But also what some of these teams do, I even think this includes the Bucks too, even though they're not a good running team. But what the 49ers do and what the Titans do well is they pass well out of running formation. So if you bring in a fullback, right? Fullbacks don't have to be receiving threats like Juszczyk is. But when you bring a fullback in, there should be somewhat at least of an illusion on defense side of the ball. Like, oh, they're bringing a fullback in. This fullback is good. They like to use this fullback in the running game to be a lead blocker. Respect the rushing formation so that if teams do decide to throw the ball out of rushing formations, out of play action or whatever, it's more effective. Rather than bringing in Elijah Penny in years past where, oh, this guy kind of sucks. So we're going to sell out in the run game because we know he's not going to do anything. So if they run the ball, we'll stop it anyway. But if we throw the ball, we'll be ready for it.
Yeah. Well, kudos to Penny for doing really getting a lot better in his blocking. There's some plays where he blows the homie up. So credit to Penny. And maybe we'll try and get Penny on the show. 2 years in a row, we've had interviews booked with Elijah Penny. And then it comes to times to do the interview, you can't get a hold of him.
It's tough. Maybe it's something about us.
I think it's more of like, he was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then when it comes time to do it, he forgot to do it. And it was like, I don't really want to do an interview. What's the point? Like, and I get that feeling. I've had that feeling before. Like, so
I get it.
We get it. That being said, Justin just went like an hour and a half with our friend Brian Colburn on his podcast. So
I loved it though. Yes, please.
I know. I'm looking forward to listening to that. That's our guy, Brian Colburn.
Let me get the name of the podcast. Hold on one second. I don't want to screw it up.
You don't
Brian
know the
Colburn.
Name?
Yeah, it's called Tune Styles. So Brian Colburn, who has been a follower of us and a listener of Talking Giants for a very long time. I just hopped off. I don't know when he's putting it out, but keep an eye out. It's called Tune Styles, TUNESTILES. He hosts a music podcast. Awesome show. Brian and Jay have two of the smoothest radio voices like I've ever heard. I can listen to them just talk all day. We had like an hour and a half long conversation about kind of like Talking Giants, Bleeding Blue, myself, content creating, community building as a whole. And then we flipped it into a music show where we talked like Super Bowl halftime performances. And I even talked about Shania Twain at the end. So stay tuned for that. It was a lot of fun.
Looking forward to it. Appreciate it. Tweet at me about the Senior Bowl, man. I'm looking forward to being down there. It's gonna be fun out here in Alabama. So appreciate it. We'll see you guys for a podcast on Friday, but there'll be a lot of content. Simple Man Radio all this week is myself, Justin, and Danny. Usually around 5:30. So that was a lot of. I mean, the episode today was a lot of fun, and it's what my goal for Simple Man Radio is to eventually be. So, Simple Man Radio had just a great flight, like talking about flights, like maybe the hardest I've ever laughed on a podcast. So, we'll see you then. We appreciate you guys. Until then, let's go Big Blue.